What is up? Welcome to Every Single Guitars, where the goal of this channel is to review every single guitar ever made. Today I'm going to review a guitar that I have already reviewed in the past. I decided to review this one because even though it's the same model guitar, it's a different color. But more importantly, there's one big difference about this guitar. Today I have a 2006 Epiphone Les Paul Custom. So if you guys haven't seen my other review of my Epiphone Les Paul Custom review, that one is the exact same model, but the color was black rather than white. And that other Les Paul Custom, I believe it was all original except for the volume and tone knobs, which were replaced to a different one. But other than that, that other Les Paul Custom was all stock. But I decided to review this particular Les Paul Custom because I personally really like white when it comes to the Les Paul Custom. Even though the black on gold is kind of like the traditional colorway for Gibson or Epiphone Les Paul Customs, I always really enjoyed the white and gold colorway. I don't know why. To me, it just looks even more classier than the original classy black and gold. But I decided to review this guitar because of one major difference, and it's pretty obvious if you can see. The last owner, he upgraded the pickups to Seymour Duncans to give it a little bit more different sounding tone than a stock Epiphone Les Paul Custom. So first impression of this guitar, I guess this isn't really my first impression because I've already owned, I think I've owned about 4 Epiphone Les Paul Customs, but I've only reviewed one. This will be my second one. But the common theme of all the Les Paul Customs that I've reviewed is the weight. The weight is pretty, it's not extremely heavy, but you know, I'd say minimum this is at least 7.5 or 8 pounds, maybe even 9. And I feel like that's the common theme of all the Les Paul Customs that I've owned. And I personally really enjoy the heavier weight, like I've always mentioned in my guitar reviews. You know, even though some people, they're really specific about guitar weight, you know, I've met a handful of people who wouldn't purchase guitars if it was over, you know, 6 pounds or 7 pounds, which to me doesn't really make sense because I feel like, you know, if you limit yourself to a guitar weight, especially like 6-7 pounds, dude, the amount of guitars you can get is just so limited. It's just drastically reduced, you know, because there are so many guitars that are over 7 pounds, and even if it's heavy, the guitar itself is very good, it's very high quality. But you know, like I said, everyone is different, so I can't really judge on people being picky about guitar weight and stuff like that. But to me personally, the weight really doesn't matter. But if I did have the option, I would prefer something a little bit more heavier, just like this guitar. So when I compare this to the black, I forget which year it was. I think it was a 2003 Epiphone Les Paul Custom. Everything is pretty much the same. Obviously the knobs are different from the other one because the other Epiphone was, the knobs were swapped out. But the bridge, the saddle quality, the tuners are Grover. The fretboard wood, I'm pretty sure is the exact same wood as the 2003 black Epiphone Les Paul Custom that I reviewed because it's the same color, the same texture. It has the classic block pearl inlays also on the first fret, which all the Les Paul Customs have. And I actually really do enjoy the block pearl inlays. I feel like it gives it a very classy look to a regular looking fretboard. You know, a fretboard is a fretboard at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter what you put on. But to me, you know, these block pearl inlays, I just love the design. I feel like it gives it a really nice touch. I also really like how on the truss rod cover, it says Les Paul Custom, which I believe all the Les Paul Customs have, but I've owned some Epiphones and some Gibsons where the truss rod cover was either blank, or sometimes for different models, they would put the logo or the name on the this area right here. For example, I've owned the ES135 and they had the word ES135 imprinted on the headstock, which I honestly really didn't like. I prefer the logo to be on the truss rod cover. You know, like I've mentioned in my Epiphone Les Paul Custom review, the one biggest gripe I have about Epiphones is just the headstock design. It's just, dude, to me, this headstock is just really weird looking. You know, the Gibsons, it has like the flat top with like the open book style headstock design, and I just never understood why Epiphone had it completely change how the headstock looks. Just to me, I never really understood that. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe Gibson is actually releasing an Epiphone that looks exactly the same as a Gibson, including the headstock design. But instead of having Gibson, it has the Epiphone right here, but the headstock design is the exact same. I'm not sure if that's when it's being released, but I did briefly see it somewhere on social media. I think like Instagram. If I can find the picture, I'll probably list it. But if Gibson is able to release an Epiphone with the exact same design other than the logo for the same price, I feel like that will up the sales for sure. Because like I said, my biggest gripe about the Epiphone is just the headstock design. Like, dude, why do you have to design it so weird? But other than that, I played this guitar a lot, mainly because I'm at my other apartment and I only brought all acoustics, but I only brought one electric. And the only electric that I brought was this. So even though I own a couple other guitars, this is the only electric guitar that I have right now. So I've been only playing with this, and so far, very good sounding guitar. I kind of forget how the original Epiphone pickup sounded, but I do remember the Epiphone Les Paul Custom that I reviewed, that had stock pickups and that sounded pretty good. These sound very good, but I feel like these pickups gear this more towards rock, you know, something with a little bit more gain and distortion. And I'm gonna do a tone test, a separate tone test on a different video. I feel like these pickups are good enough for me to try out the tone, you know, take a video and then record the tone a little bit more professionally. You know, for me, I don't know why, but action has really never been a big issue for me. And I think a large reason is because when I first started playing guitar, none of my guitars were ever set up. I honestly didn't even know what action was. My first Squier that I ever got, the action was super high, and I just thought that was normal. I just thought that was how a guitar was supposed to be played. You know, for like the first 5 years of me playing that Squier, I was always playing it with really high action, and I got used to it because, like I said, I thought it was normal. So now, even though I've discovered the importance of setting up a guitar properly, but now when I play, a lower action is just a plus. You know, it's not, you know, I don't really get too anal or picky about string height, nut width, stuff like that. To me, at the end of the day, a guitar is a guitar. You can either play it or you can't play it. And if the action, you know, if a little bit higher action makes you not be able to play the guitar, then I feel like you might have to reconsider your guitar playing abilities. I'm just playing. It's different for everybody. But so far, out of all the Epiphones that I've owned, the Custom is probably the most well-rounded and best Epiphone for the price. And I feel like that makes sense because the Gibson Les Paul Custom is arguably the highest level Gibson you can buy. And the Epiphone Les Paul Custom is the highest level Epiphone you can buy, other than like reissues and stuff like that. So it makes sense why out of all the Epiphones that I've owned, such as the Epiphone SG, Epiphone Crestwood, the Les Paul Custom, this has always been the most consistent and I'd say best Epiphone. So if you see any type of Epiphone Custom, Les Paul Custom, before 2010, you would expect a pretty good quality guitar, pretty well-rounded and versatile sounding guitar. And if you want a different sounding tone or sound, you can always swap the pickups, just like what the last owner did for this. 2006 Epiphone Les Paul Custom. Build quality, I give this an 8 out of 10. Tone, I'll tell you later once I record it professionally.